Namaskar and a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I extend a very warm welcome to you all to the India LPG Summit, and I'm sure and hope that you all are rejuvenated and back with all your energy to participate in today's deliberations. As you know that yesterday's sessions covered an entire gamut of topics covering the LPG industry, especially in the Asian context. As part of today's India LPG Summit, we will be deliberating in depth and in detail how the policies have reached and touched lives of many in the country, and especially about the work which has been done at the ground level. Ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely pleased to have a very distinguished panel for this inaugural session, and without any further ado, I would like to take this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome and also invite on the dais. We have with us Shri Ajay Sahni, Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas with us today. May I please request you to welcome him with a big round of applause. May I also invite on stage Mr. Ashutosh Jindal, Joint Secretary Marketing, the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Jindal. Mr. James Rockall, CEO of the World LPG Association, and Mr. B. Ashok, Chairman of the Indian Oil Corporation Limited. A very warm welcome to our distinguished panel here. Before we commence the formal proceedings of this inaugural session, we would like to extend a very warm welcome through a gesture of presenting flowers and shawls. Firstly, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Y.K. Gupta, Executive Director, LPG from Indian Oil Corporation, to do the honors in welcoming Shri Ajay Prakash Sahni. May I once again request Mr. Gupta, Mr. Y.K. Gupta, to do the honors in presenting flowers and a shawl to Mr. James Rockall. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. May I now call upon Mr. Arun Singh, Executive Director, LPG, PCL, to kindly do the honors in welcoming Mr. B. Ashok. Thank you. May I now invite Mr. Ajit Singh, Executive Director, LPG from HPCL, to kindly extend a very warm welcome gesture to Mr. Ashutosh Jindal. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this we will now commence the inaugural session, and I would like to firstly invite Mr. James Rockall, as CEO of the World LPG Association, request him to kindly make the welcome address.
Distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the second day of meetings of this Indian LPG, or Asian LPG Summit, I should say. I hope you all had a good night last night. I certainly did. I thought it was a fabulous evening, and thanks to the organizers for putting that on. Somehow, I agreed to organizing an Indian LPG versus the rest of the world LPG cricket match. I'm not sure how that happened. If anybody's interested in playing, I think they should contact Suyash Gupta, who's sitting down here. Now, since we're focusing on India, I'm going to keep my remarks reasonably brief, but it would be amiss of me not to reiterate that what you've achieved in the last 9 months is absolutely amazing, and you should all be immensely proud. In my travels around the world, I see a lot of talk, I see a lot of ideas, and of course there's also a certain amount of action. But in India, you've really given a new meaning to the phrase, walk the talk. So congratulations. After the view of India in the world yesterday, we turn our attention today to the detail of LPG in India, and it's worthy of a full day of conference. We learned yesterday that by the end of the decade, we can expect upwards of 100 million new LPG customers by 2020. That's about 500 million new consumers, and it's equivalent to the entire population of the United States and Brazil. Mature markets that have taken decades to get to the levels of consumption that they have now, but you want to do this and you plan to do it, and I'm sure you'll be successful at doing this in just a few years. To supply this many people, you're going to invest in infrastructure and distribution. Having this infrastructure in place can stimulate new opportunities on the back of this investment. We've seen that India intends to jump from Euro 4 to Euro 6 emission standards for vehicles. This is laudable. It will certainly help address the issue of ambient air pollution. But how many existing cars and vehicles in India are Euro 6 compliant? A quick way to reach this standard will be conversions to LPG, depending on the state of the existing vehicles, of course. And the market opportunity in off-grid areas of India alone would be truly massive. But I'm also convinced that LPG can compete with CNG in the cities as well. In many parts of the world, we see a lack of involvement of women in the business, and our industry has been characterized by external observers as being somewhat male-dominated. Now, given the fact that many of our customers are women, it's probably not an optimal business practice. Many studies have shown that companies that have a good gender balance are more efficient, more effective. I'd like to bring to your attention the fact that we are holding a knowledge exchange workshop on women in LPG this morning at 10:30 in the Mumtaz Mahal Hall, just down the corridor here. And I encourage you to join that if you're interested in women in the business. As India becomes connected to LPG, we will see tremendous related benefits in the future. Our focus has been on health and health improvements, quite rightly, but we should also recognize that access to clean and convenient fuel has many other benefits too. No longer will households, and predominantly women and children, have to spend hours each day collecting wood. This time saved can be used productively, generating value for the households, for the community, and for the national economy. Children will have time to go to school and use their education to help others as well. Increased awareness on issues such as health, supported by rising access to high-speed internet in homes right across India, will lead to consumers demanding greater service, and it will reinforce a virtuous cycle of continuous improvement, which in the long term will be of great benefit to the country. My lasting memories of the meetings this week here has been one of optimism. You have tremendous belief in the potential of LPG in your country and the potential of your country in general. And I think that alone will probably ensure your success. The summit has been really tremendous for WLPGA, and I would like to thank our members in India here again, Indian Oil, Hindustan Petroleum, and Bharat Petroleum for their huge support. The WLPGA has a long and successful history of working with the Indian LPG industry, and I look forward to an equally long and successful future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James Rockel, for your warm welcome address and also for your kind words of encouragement. And we also look for continued association with the World LPG Association. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now take this opportunity to invite Mr. Ashutosh Jindal, Joint Secretary Marketing in the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and may I please request him to kindly address us.
Thank you. Additional Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum, Shri Ajay Sahani ji, Chairman IOC, Shri Ashok ji, CEO of WLPGA, Mr. James Rockall, senior officials from Ministry and the oil marketing companies, distinguished friends from outside India, and delegates to the conference. At the outset, I would like to once again extend our deep gratitude to WLPGA for bringing the Asia Summit to Delhi this time. Friends, as you would have seen, we have had very engaging presentations, discussions last 1.5 days. As we start the journey for the last day, the 8th of February, I have nothing much to say except that whatever we have done in the last 1.5 to 2 years, starting with Pahel, Give It Up, and now Ujjwala, particularly Ujjwala, has, I think all of us would realize and appreciate that, has a new ecosystem put in place. We have been able to do this not in a BAU scenario, not in a business as usual scenario. We have seen our field officers step outside the comforts of their offices and homes, visit the villages, the distributor community, aggressively go out, go to each and every household, try to convince the customers to come on board. And all of them are done with great enthusiasm and zeal. We were quite skeptical whether we'll be able to do it when we started the Ujjwala program. We have also, in my view, put in place a new form of governance, which is a collaborative, a bottoms-up governance, where we talk to all our arms and legs every day, take feedback from them, and keep improving on the way we are implementing Ujjwala. In that series, I'm very happy that today's events are mostly focused on all of you, people who are the real implementers of these great initiatives in the field. And I'm sure they'll have great opportunity to share their experiences, to give us valuable feedback on what more needs to be done to make these schemes a great success in the days to come. With these words, I would like to once again congratulate the 3 oil marketing companies, IOC, BPC, and HBC, for putting up a great show, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Ashutosh Jindal, for your warm words. I would like to now request Mr. B. Ashok, Chairman of the Indian Oil Corporation, to kindly address us.
Mr. Ajay Prakash Sahni, Additional Secretary MOPNG, Mr. Ashutosh Jindal, Joint Secretary Marketing MOPNG, my good friend and CEO WLPGA, Mr. James Rockall, distinguished delegates from overseas and from the country, colleagues from MOPNG and oil industry, members of the organizing committee, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. A very, very good morning to all of you. A conference like this could not have come at a better time or a better moment. India is embarking upon a journey that is propelling her to the League of Developed Nations. India is now the fastest growing economy in the world. For the development of any nation, the role of petroleum sector is absolutely crucial. In that sense, our role assumes an even greater importance. We began the race with a handicap, that of being a couple of decades behind the developed world. The world progressed owing to industrial revolution and rapid scientific advancements in spite of 2 devastating wars. Unfortunately, India was a British colony at that time, and such development remained elusive for us. Massive destruction of environment was one of the prices paid by the world for the rapid industrialization of the West. If India, or for that matter China, followed the same model, it was sure to end up in an environmental disaster. We had to seek different models to catch up with the Western world. I'm proud to say that we are today well on course to being at par with the advanced nations. India is the third largest consumer of energy in the world, and its energy demand continues to grow in tandem with the growth story. India's economy has grown at an average annual rate of approximately 7.4% between 2005 and 16, with a big push to the country's reforms process and monetary policies and a return to macroeconomic stability. It is expected to accelerate further as per IMF projections. LPG has rapidly moved to the center stage, becoming the most preferred fuel for Indian kitchens. In the last 51 years since Indian Oil started marketing LPG, its growth trajectory has been unbelievable. From the initial resistance against using LPG in kitchens, it has reached over 188 million households with an annual demand of almost 21 million tons, or a mind-boggling 1.3 billion cylinders per annum. I think it's a coincidence that the number of cylinders required is probably equivalent to that of the population of the country. The demand for LPG has been growing steadily at around 7%, which has spurted to double digits during the last couple of years. LPG marketing in India has a few unique features which make it more complex and therefore more challenging. Number one, LPG is delivered to the customer's doorsteps in returnable containers. Industry delivers more than 3.5 million cylinders a day to every nook and corner of the country. Domestic usage of LPG accounts for a massive 90% of the country's total consumption. 3. LPG cylinders meant for domestic use are subsidized. This was done in an effort to encourage more and more households to adopt this green fuel. 4. LPG for commercial usage is not subsidized. Dual pricing had created its own set of problems. 5. LPG had largely remained an urban fuel on account of complex distribution logistics. Also, the consumption of subsidized LPG is a strong function of income, especially in rural areas. With biomass available as a cheaper alternative, LPG use in villages remained restricted mainly to middle and high income households. With about 72% of India's population living in villages and about 68% of the villages having a population of 2,000 or less, its penetration in the rural markets remained a challenge. For a majority of India, LPG was available very selectively, sparingly, and sporadically. Thanks to the indomitable will and spirit displayed by our government, the 5-decade-old rules of LPG marketing have been completely rewritten over the last 2 years to correct its imbalance and discrepancies. A massive drive was spearheaded by our ministry, guided by the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, to reach LPG to every household. Most of the issues were addressed with the initiatives rolled out in the last 2 years. India is a country which has unity in its diversity. The initiatives which were in full display in the summit yesterday proved this point in many ways. PEHEL was implemented through a series of well-coordinated efforts. It started with providing a technologically backed and established identification number for the citizens called Aadhaar. Then came a drive on creation of bank accounts in an easy and convenient way. As OMC's domestic LPG customer base was fully digitized, with interconnecting Aadhaar and bank account, created a robust digital network for seamless transferring of subsidy to the genuine beneficiary. PEHEL has proved that the right technology platform with determination to implement can plug the leakages in social welfare schemes to any scale, even in diverse and complex environment. I consider PEHEL as a natural outcome with a determined government, committed public sector, and a robust technological platform are together. Come to give it up. An appeal from the Honorable Prime Minister for a national cause made the affluent and those who can afford give up their concessions for the benefit of the needy. I consider this as an outcome of right to the heart communication with easy understandable advertisements and follow-ups. I still remember the TV ad of the little child talking to her father, ready to sacrifice her Diwali sweets and crackers for financing an LPG connection for the needy. Smokeless Village was a mass door-to-door campaign volunteered by a few lady officers. The connection they could establish with ladies of the below poverty line households converted chulas into LPG cooking stoves. Here again, one-to-one communication and demonstrating the benefits right up to the user proved way for the social change. Ujjwala today is a well-coordinated effort of different agencies with financial support from the government. The scheme is implemented with the involvement of people's representatives of various districts. A mass movement has been created to distribute LPG connections to the needy, which is ahead of its target today. Overall, schemes in LPG rolled out in the last 2 years have proved that a good technological platform, clear communication, and coordinated efforts can achieve the impossible even at a large scale within a very short span of time. But can we be complacent with what we have done? Today, the programs have generated and captured the imagination on the benefits of these transformation schemes beyond the policymakers within the Petroleum and Natural Gas Ministry. The initiatives have elements of health, environmental impacts, deforestation, economic benefits, and so on. With leakages in subsidized LPG distribution under check, as we heard from some of the eminent speakers yesterday, a good framework could be created by combining welfare measures being rolled out by various ministries in these fields as the next step of integrated, holistic plan of social transformation. With all these initiatives, India has embarked upon an ambitious journey to provide LPG to over 80%. Why? We can even think of 90% plus of its population over the next 3 years. India's journey is a unique one. Never in our history have we worked with such single-minded dedication towards the upliftment of the poorest of the poor. And never in the past have we received such support, encouragement, and guidance from the government. Development and growth stories of the past have resorted to centuries of colonialization, slave trade, destructive wars, mindless destruction of nature to make us prosperous. We are trying to achieve the same without harming nature and in a much shorter time period. What is more remarkable is that we are doing so in a democratic manner in a country which is almost as big as Europe and has much more complexity in terms of cultures, languages, religion, race, why even eating habits. And we are doing this for 1.5 billion or billion plus people. We may have many failings, we may face many obstacles, but India is sure to rise again. India will show the world that there is always a better way, a more humane way to develop and progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. B. Ashok, for your kind address. You rightly mentioned that the role of the petroleum sector is indeed crucial in the economic development of the country, which is on a rapid pace of development, with LPG taking the center stage as one of the most preferred clean and energy fuels. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all eagerly awaiting the inaugural address of Shri Ajay Prakashani, Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and may I please now invite him to kindly deliver the inaugural address.
Mr. James Rockall, Mr. Ashok, Mr. Ashutosh Jindal, officers from the various oil companies, stakeholders, distinguished guests from all over the world, Professor Kirk Smith, members from media, ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful to be here again with you. A very good morning to all of you, and welcome to the India LPG Summit, which is organized as a part of the Asia LPG Summit. And yesterday we had a good day, good discussions, more in the context of what is happening in the world, what is happening in Asia. And we also became more aware of how India is growing its LPG coverage very rapidly. In this, actually, I am not very old in this sector. I have spent about 1.5 years. When I came in to somewhere at the end of March 2015, and we started looking at what was a growing success in the Pahel program. I remember a discussion when actually we posed this question. We still have a very large number of families that are not covered by LPG. And I also remember, I think Ajit Singh ji is there, all our friends are here. I also remember being told कि ये 10 साल तो लगेंगे. It will take at least 10 years. It's too large, and we have a certain run rate, scoring rate every year, and already our LPG sort of supply chain, etc., is reasonably stretched at any point of time, so it will take us time. So somehow I very strongly felt that something far more needs to be done. In India, we have still a system of subsidized LPG. A large number of the users still get subsidy. It is still dominated by oil marketing companies in the public sector. The simple fact that a technologically superior fuel is available, has been available for many decades. It is being used by all of us in our houses, in our kitchens, and we have not been able to make it available across the length and breadth of the country. I think if LPG is available, if it is accessible, and if it is not affordable, and if a person doesn't come forward and buy, it's a matter of choice. Not to provide access or to fail to provide access in any part of the country is not excusable. It is not something that we can live with. So I, for one, am seriously delighted that we were able to move on with Give It Up, we were able to move on with Give It Back, and we were able to step up the ambition and the pace of the program with PMUY. But I would once again like to endorse strongly what Professor Kirk-Smith mentioned yesterday and add a little to that the core idea of providing LPG is not simply taking LPG to a kitchen. The core idea behind providing LPG is captured in the imagery that we are using in the PMUY program. When PM mentioned this program, he talks about smoke in the kitchen. So it is not simply taking LPG into the kitchen. The task is of driving smoke out of the kitchen. And that task, I think we should not actually be counting from 70% to 72% to 75%, and maybe we will reach 80% or something. We should start counting backwards. How many kitchens are left where still there is smoke? And that includes kitchens where we have taken LPG. Many of them still depend on biomass because our supply chain is not perfect, because we have many shortcomings still in the system. I think this is what we need to discuss much more than celebrating what we have been doing. It's good to celebrate what we have achieved. It's a scorching pace that we have set. But it is not enough. It is not enough till we drive the smoke out of every kitchen in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sani, for your notable inaugural address. You spoke of the 3 A's in LPG: reach, availability, accessibility, and affordability. You also shared about what has been done, but also stressed on what really needs to be done. Thank you very much for being here with us and for your time and presence. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, we conclude our inaugural session and we are going to have a short tea and coffee break. May I please request you to kindly join me in extending a heartfelt thanks to our distinguished panel here. May I please remind you to kindly tweet on our Twitter handle, which is #AsiaLPG Summit, and please share your feedback and views with us. And may I please request everyone to kindly take care of your belongings. Do not leave them behind. We have had some mishaps of some bags missing and also some personal belongings missing. So may I please request you to kindly take care of them. And meanwhile, may I request you to join us back in the next 15 to 20 minutes for our first session, which is on the LPG customer experience. Thank you very much.